Kyle Harrison sat in a small chair at the back of the giant meeting hall. The chair was too small for humans, made for beings much shorter than him. His knees pressed against the table in front of him, and his back hurt from sitting in the wrong position for 3 hours. Around him, the greatest powers in the galaxy talked and argued. Their voices filled the crystal dome above them. Some spoke in clicking sounds, others in deep rumbles that made his chest shake. The translation device in his ear turned their words into English, but it could not hide their tone. They all sounded angry or bored. Kyle looked at the beings around him. The Vorthok sat in the center of the room. They looked like giant beetles, covered in black armor. Their leader, War Commander Vextral, stood 12 feet tall. His forearms moved as he spoke about his latest victories. The Vorthok had conquered 15 star systems in the past year alone. "We have taken the mineral worlds of Sector 7, Vextral said. His voice sounded like grinding metal. The local species offered no real fight. They now serve the Vorthok Empire, as is proper." The other aliens nodded or made sounds of approval. Kyle felt sick. Those local species were probably families with children, now forced to work as slaves. Next to the Vorthok sat the Hive Collective. They looked like giant insects with too many eyes. Their bodies were covered in green and black shells. Speaker Zax stood on 6 legs and moved her antenna as she talked. "The Hive claims 3 new breeding worlds," she said. Her voice buzzed. "Like 1,000 bees. We will fill them with our young. The previous inhabitants have been ... relocated." Kyle knew what relocated meant. It meant killed or driven away to make room for hive eggs. At the far end sat the Stellar Dominion. They were not solid beings like the others. Instead, they looked like bright lights wrapped in metal suits. Their leader spoke through electronic sounds that hurt Kyle's ears, even through the translator. "Energy Sector 12 Alpha now belongs to the Dominion," the being said. "We have absorbed all useful stellar matter in the region." The council chairman, a gray creature called Mordic, nodded at each report. Mordic looked like a tall, thin human, but with skin like stone and eyes that glowed blue. He had run these meetings for over 100 years. "Excellent reports from our major powers," Mordic said. "Now we move to minor business." Kyle's heart sank. Minor business. That was what they called anything involving humans or the other small species. Kyle stood up slowly. His legs were stiff from the tiny chair. "Council Chairman, I request time to speak for Earth." A wave of sounds filled the room. Some aliens clicked their tongues, others buzzed, and a few made sounds like laughing. Kyle felt his face turn red, but he stayed standing. Yes, Mordic said, waving one long hand. "The human representative. What small matter brings you before us today?" Kyle took a deep breath. "For the past 6 months, raiders have attacked our outer colonies. They steal our food supplies and take our people as slaves. We ask the council to investigate these attacks." War Commander Vextral made a sound like grinding gears. "Human colonies produce little of value. Why would anyone waste time raiding them?" "Perhaps the humans imagine these attacks." Speaker's Act H buzzed. "Small species often create threats that do not exist." More sounds of amusement came from around the room. Kyle felt his anger rising, but he kept his voice calm. "We have proof of the attacks. Video recordings, damaged ships, missing people. These raids are real, and they are getting worse." "Even if true," Mordic said, "the Council deals with major galactic issues. Local pirate problems are not our concern. Local pirates do not have military-grade weapons and organized fleets," Kyle said. "Someone is backing these raiders." Vextral stood to his full height. "Are you suggesting that a council member would waste resources attacking human settlements? What could Earth possibly have that we would want?" The room filled with more clicking and buzzing sounds. Kyle realized they were all laughing at him. The most powerful beings in the galaxy thought the idea of raiding human colonies was funny. "I will note your complaint in the official record," Mordic said in a bored voice. "Perhaps we can discuss it at a future meeting. Now, let us move to more important matters." Kyle sat down hard. His chair squeaked under his weight. The meeting continued, but no one looked at him anymore. He was invisible again, just a representative of a small, weak species that no one cared about. Dr. Lisa Carter sat in the viewing gallery above the main floor. She had watched the whole meeting through the clear wall that separated observers from the official delegates. Her notebook was full of observations about each alien species. Lisa studied how each group acted and spoke. The Vorthok were clearly the strongest military power. They spoke like soldiers and moved like they were always ready for a fight. The Hive Collective worked as a group mind, never disagreeing with each other. The Stellar Dominion seemed to care only about collecting energy and growing stronger. What worried Lisa most was how they all talked about smaller species. To them, humans and other weak races were just resources to be used or obstacles to be removed. They spoke about destroying entire civilizations, like humans might talk about clearing weeds from a garden. She wrote down their military strengths as they bragged about their victories. The Vorthok had thousands of heavy warships. The Hive could produce new soldiers faster than anyone could kill them. The Stellar Dominion could drain the energy from entire star systems. Compared to them, Earth's small defense fleet looked like toys. Humans had 12 military ships total, and most of those were just armed transport vessels. If any of these major powers decided to attack Earth directly, the planet would fall in days. Back on Earth, Admiral Jack Murphy sat in his office, reading reports from the frontier colonies. The attacks Kyle had mentioned were real, and they were getting worse. 3 more colonies had been hit in the past week alone. The raiders used advanced weapons and moved in organized formations. This was not random piracy. Someone was testing human defenses, learning their weaknesses. Jack looked at the star chart on his wall. Earth's colonies were scattered across dozens of star systems, each one defended by a single patrol ship or a few orbital weapons platforms. It would be impossible to protect them all if a real military force decided to attack. He picked up his phone and called the emergency defense meeting. It was time to discuss options that had been secret for too long. The galaxy might see humans as weak and helpless, but Jack knew something the aliens did not. Earth had been preparing for this day for 20 years. Hidden in asteroid fields and secret construction yards, humanity's real strength was taking shape. The galaxy thought humans were defenseless prey. Soon, they would learn how wrong they were. 3 months passed since Kyle Harrison sat in that small chair at the Galactic Council. The alien leaders had forgotten about his request, but the raids on human colonies continued. Each attack grew bolder and more destructive. War Commander Dexrel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Claw. Around him, 11 other Vorthok heavy cruisers moved through space toward the human colony of New Denver. The humans called it a mining world, but Dexrel saw it as an easy target. "Commander, we are receiving a message from the human settlement," his communications officer reported. "Put it on the main screen," Dexrel ordered. A human face appeared. On the screen, the man looked young and nervous. "This is Governor Peterson of New Denver Colony. We are a peaceful mining operation. Please state your business in our system." Vexrel laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Human, I am War Commander Vexrel of the Vorthok Empire. Your little colony now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and your people will become workers instead of corpses." Governor Peterson's face went pale. We cannot surrender our colony. This is human territory, under galactic law. The only law here is Vorthok's strength," Vexrel said. You have 1 hour to evacuate your military vessels and prepare for our arrival. Any resistance will result in the destruction of your entire settlement. The screen went dark. Dexrel turned to his weapons officer. How many human ships are in the system? Only 3, Commander. Small vessels, probably patrol ships. Our intelligence says they carry basic weapons and weak shields. Dexrel nodded. This would be easier than he thought. The humans had no real military power. Their ships were built for exploration and transport, not war. His 12 heavy cruisers would destroy them in minutes. Captain Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, one of the 3 human ships in the new Denver system. His crew of 200 looked nervous as they watched the massive Vorthok fleet approach. Captain, incoming message from the colony, his communications officer said. Put Governor Peterson through, Ryan ordered. The governor's face appeared on the screen. Captain Blake, the Vorthok are demanding our surrender. They want us to evacuate all military ships within the hour. Ryan looked at his tactical display. 12 heavy cruisers, each one 3 times the size of his ship. By all logic, he should retreat and call for help. But help was weeks away, and the colonists would be dead or enslaved by then. Governor, prepare the colonists for possible evacuation, but do not surrender, Ryan said. We are going to try to stop them. Captain, with respect, you have 3 ships against 12. This is suicide. Ryan smiled grimly. Maybe, but we took an oath to protect human colonies. We are not running away. Dr. Angela Foster worked frantically at her science station on the Defender's Bridge. As the ship's chief science officer, she was analyzing energy readings from the Vorthok vessels. Something about their shield patterns caught her attention. Captain, I am detecting unusual harmonics in their defensive systems, she reported. What kind of harmonics? Ryan asked. Their shields pulse in a regular pattern. It looks like they use a rotating frequency to prevent weapons from locking onto specific wavelengths. But the rotation follows a mathematical sequence. Ryan walked over to her station. Can you predict the sequence? Give me 10 more minutes of scanning data, and I think I can, Angela said. If I am right, we might be able to time our weapons to hit during the weak points in their rotation cycle. Do it, Ryan ordered. Communications, contact the other 2 ships. Tell them to follow our lead and target the flagship when I give the signal. The Vorthok fleet moved into attack formation. Dexrel watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The 3 human ships had formed a defensive line between his fleet and the colony, but they were badly outnumbered. Human ships are powering weapons, his tactical officer reported. They mean to fight. Dexrel sounded surprised. Foolish creatures. Begin the attack. Target their weapons and engines first. I want prisoners to question about human military capabilities. The space battle began with a flash of energy weapons. Vorthok plasma cannons fired bright green beams across the darkness. The human ships responded with railgun rounds and missile barrages. For the first few minutes, the fight looked like every other battle against a weaker species. The human weapons bounced harmlessly off Vorthok shields. Their ships took heavy damage as alien plasma beams burned through their hull armor. 2 of the 3 human vessels began venting atmosphere and debris. This is too easy, Dexrel muttered. Are humans really this weak? But Captain Blake was not finished. Angela, do you have that shield frequency yet? Yes, Captain. Transmitting. Targeting data to all ships now. Fire everything we have at the flagship in exactly 15 seconds. Ryan counted down the seconds. At 0, all 3 human ships fired every weapon they had at the Iron Claw. The timing was perfect. Their shots hit just as the Vorthok shields entered their weakest. Rotation phase, railgun rounds, and missiles struck the flagship's hull directly. Explosions bloomed across its armored surface. The massive ship shuddered and began to list to 1. Sighed impossible. Vexero roared. How did their primitive weapons penetrate our shields? His damage control officer gave him bad news. Main engines are offline. Weapons array is damaged. We have fires on 12 decks. The other Vorthok ships immediately changed their formation to protect their damaged flagship. But the humans had proven something important. Vorthok technology was advanced, but it was not perfect. Commander Steve Johnson crouched behind a pile of mining equipment on the surface of New Denver. The colony had 20,000 people, but only 500 trained soldiers. The rest were miners, engineers, and their families. Vorthok dropships landed outside the main settlement. Hundreds of armored alien soldiers poured out, expecting an easy victory against human colonists. They moved in perfect military formations, like they had done this many times before. But Steve had studied reports from other raids. He knew how the Vorthok fought, and he had prepared his people for a different kind of battle. Wait until they reach the mining complex, he whispered into his radio. Let them get deep into the tunnels before we hit them. The Vorthok soldiers advanced confidently. Their armor could stop most human weapons, and their numbers were overwhelming. They expected the humans to either run or surrender. Instead, the colonists fought like wildcats. They used the mining tunnels as cover, attacking from unexpected directions and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Explosive mining charges became improvised bombs. Industrial equipment became weapons. The Vorthok had never faced this kind of fighting before. All their previous enemies had been civilized species that fought in organized formations. Humans fought dirty, using every trick and advantage they could find. These humans fight like animals, one Vorthok squad leader reported. They show no honor in battle, but their animal tactics were working. For every human casualty, soldiers fell. The aliens had better equipment, but the humans knew the ground and refused to give up. Back in space, the battle was turning into a stalemate. The Vorthok had more ships, but the humans had learned to exploit weaknesses in alien shield technology. Neither side could claim victory. Dr. Angela Foster continued scanning enemy vessels, learning more about their technology with each minute of combat. Her discoveries would change everything, but she did not know it yet. The battle raged for 6 hours. Both sides took heavy losses. The EU's defender was badly damaged, with fires burning on 3 decks. The other human ships were barely functional, but the Vorthok flagship was dead in space, and 2 other alien cruisers had been destroyed. Commander, we are receiving a priority message from the home fleet, the Vorthok communications officer reported. The High Command orders us to withdraw immediately. Netzrel stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His mighty fleet had been fought to a standstill by 3 small human ships. Worse, his soldiers on the ground were still fighting. House-to-house battles against what should have been helpless colonists. All ships, begin withdrawal, he ordered reluctantly. Recall the ground forces. The surviving Vorthok ships limped away from New Denver, leaving behind their dead and wounded. For the first time in the Empire's history, they had been forced to retreat by a weaker enemy. Captain Ryan Blake slumped in his command chair, exhausted. His ship was barely holding together, but they had won. Somehow, impossibly, they had won. Casualties, he asked. 67 dead, over 200 wounded, his first officer reported. But the colony is safe. Ryan nodded. The price had been high, but they had protected 20,000 innocent people. That was what mattered. What he did not know was that this small battle would change the galaxy forever. The Vorthok survivors would carry news of human fighting capability back to their empire. Other alien species would hear about the defeat and wonder what other surprises Earth might be hiding. For the first time in galactic history, someone had made the major powers nervous about attacking humans. It was just the beginning. News of the Vorthok defeat at New Denver spread through the galaxy like wildfire. In space bars and trading posts, beings whispered about the impossible battle where humans had fought off a superior force. Most dismissed the stories as exaggerated rumors. Humans were weak. Everyone knew that. Speakers Act H did not believe the rumors either. The Hive Collective had intelligence reports on human military strength. Earth had maybe 20 ships total, all of them small and lightly armed. The idea that 3 such vessels could defeat 12 Vorthok heavy cruisers was ridiculous. The reports must be wrong, she told her war council. Perhaps the Vorthok encountered technical problems, or the humans received help from another species. Her military advisors buzzed in agreement. The Hive had been watching human space for months, planning their own expansion into mineral-rich asteroid fields that Earth claimed as territory. The defeat at New Denver would not change those plans. Send a moderate force to the human mining stations in Sector 5, USXD ordered. 50 ships should be more than enough to secure the asteroids and test human defenses ourselves. What the Hive did not know was that Earth had been watching them too. Hidden sensors had tracked Hive movements for weeks. Deep in the asteroid belt, construction crews worked around the clock to finish humanity's greatest secret. Admiral Claire Roberts stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching dozens of screens that showed ships moving throughout human space. As the new head of Earth's Stellar Defense Command, she had access to information that would terrify the alien species threatening her world. Admiral, the Hive fleet is moving toward Sector 5 as predicted, reported Commander Lisa Wu from the intelligence station. 50 ships, including 10 heavy carriers. Claire nodded. It was time to implement Project Titan, the most classified program in human history. For 20 years, Earth's best scientists and engineers had worked in secret, building weapons that would change the balance of galactic power forever. Send the activation codes to Asteroid Base Gamma, she ordered. Tell Captain Ross he is authorized to deploy the Goliath. Deep inside a hollowed-out asteroid, massive dock doors began to open. For 2 decades, this base had been hidden from alien sensors, disguised as a simple mining operation. Now, its true purpose was revealed. The EU's Goliath emerged from the asteroid, like a giant awakening from sleep. The ship was enormous, 5 times larger than the biggest Vorthok dreadnought. Its hull was covered in armor plating that gleamed like silver in the starlight. Weapon ports lined its sides, each one capable of destroying a smaller ship with a single shot. Captain Danny Ross stood on the bridge of humanity's first Titan-class warship. Around him, his crew of 800 prepared for their first real combat mission. They had trained for this moment for years, but none of them had ever seen the ship's weapons fired in anger. Captain, all systems are green, reported Chief Engineer Monica Price. Gravitational disruptors are charged and ready. Quantum torpedo arrays are loaded. Danny looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Hive fleet. 50 ships against 1 seemed like terrible odds, but the Goliath was not like any ship that had ever been built. It carried weapons that bent the laws of physics. Technology that combined human engineering with alien science stolen from captured enemy vessels. Take us to intercept course, he ordered. Time to show the galaxy what Earth has been building. The Hive fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Sector 5, expecting to find a few human patrol ships and some lightly defended asteroid mines. Instead, their sensors detected something impossible. Fleet Commander, we are detecting a massive energy signature, the Hive sensor operator reported. 1 ship, but it is larger than anything in our databases. Fleet Commander Zexka studied the readings with confusion. The energy output from the human vessel was off the charts. It was generating more power than their entire fleet combined. It must be a sensor malfunction, she decided. No ship that size could exist. Continue the approach. But as they drew closer, Even the hive's collective mind had to accept what their sensors were telling them. The human ship was real, and it was massive, beyond anything they had ever imagined. The EU's Goliath hung in space like a metal mountain. Its hull was so large that the hive ships looked like insects flying around it. Weapon emplacements dotted its surface, each one bigger than a hive fighter craft. "This is Captain Ross of the EU's Goliath," Danny broadcast on all frequencies. "You are trespassing in human space. Turn around and leave immediately, or we will fire." Fleet Commander Zekska clicked her mandibles in what might have been laughter. "Human ship, you are outnumbered 50 to 1. Surrender now, and your crew will be allowed to live as hive workers." "Negative," Danny replied. "You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal. After that, we will consider you hostile." The hive commander could not believe human arrogance. One ship, even a large one, could not possibly fight their entire fleet. She gave the order to attack. 50 hive ships opened fire at once. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked through space toward the human vessel. The amount of firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. The weapon struck the Goliath's shields and simply disappeared. Energy that should have melted metal was absorbed and dissipated like raindrops hitting a lake. The massive human ship did not even slow down. "Impossible," Zekska whispered. "Nothing can withstand that much concentrated fire." Danny watched the enemy barrage hit his ship without causing any damage. The Goliath's shields were based on captured Stellar Dominion technology, improved by human engineers until they could absorb almost unlimited energy. "Their attack is finished," Monica reported. "Shall we respond?" "Fire gravitational disruptors," Danny ordered. "Target the enemy flagship." The Goliath's main weapons came to life. Gravitational disruptors created localized distortions in spacetime itself, crushing anything caught in their field. The technology was theoretical until human scientists had made it real. Space around the hive flagship began to twist and bend. The alien vessel was caught in forces that pulled it in 12 directions at once. Metal screamed as the ship was torn apart by gravity waves. In seconds, the proud hive carrier was reduced to scattered debris. "Impossible," Zekska said again. She was on one of the smaller ships now, watching her flagship die. "Weapons do not work that way." The Goliath's second weapon system activated. Quantum torpedoes launched from hidden ports along the ship's hull. Each torpedo was a small sun, contained in a magnetic bottle. When they struck enemy vessels, the results were devastating. Hive ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Their advanced armor meant nothing against weapons that attacked matter at the quantum level. Ship after ship died as the human torpedoes found their targets. "All ships, retreat immediately," Zekska ordered, but it was too late for most of her fleet. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. When it was over, 47 hive ships had been destroyed. Only 3 vessels escaped to carry news of the massacre back to their homeworlds. Captain Danny Ross looked at the debris field that had once been an enemy fleet. He felt no satisfaction in the destruction, only relief that Earth was safe for another day. "Monica, what is our status?" he asked. "All systems nominal, Captain," the chief engineer reported. "Shields held perfectly. We used less than 5% of our total weapons capacity." Danny nodded. The Goliath had passed its first real test, but this was just the beginning. Intelligence reports suggested that other alien powers were planning their own attacks on human space. "Set course for Earth," he ordered. "Command needs a full report on our capabilities." As the massive ship turned toward home, its sensors detected the 3 surviving hive vessels fleeing at maximum speed. Danny made no move to pursue them. It was better to let some enemies escape, to carry the tale of what they had seen back. On Earth, Admiral Claire Roberts received the battle report with grim satisfaction. The Goliath had performed even better than expected, But one ship would not be enough to protect all of human space. How many more Titan-class ships can we deploy? She asked her staff. 3 more are ready for service, Admiral Jack Murphy reported. 5 others will be completed within the month. Construction is proceeding ahead of schedule. Claire studied the tactical map showing alien territories around Earth. The major powers had hundreds of ships each. Even with a dozen Titan vessels, humanity would still be outnumbered. But numbers were not everything. The aliens had grown complacent, used to fighting weaker enemies with predictable tactics. They had never faced weapons that could twist space or turn matter into energy. They did not understand human determination or ingenuity. Begin deploying the completed ships to defensive positions, she ordered, and send a message to Kyle Harrison at the Galactic Council. Tell him it is time to make some new demands. Kyle Harrison received the encrypted message while sitting in his small apartment on the diplomatic station. The words were simple, but their meaning was clear. Earth was no longer defenseless. The time for hiding was over. He thought about all the insults and dismissals he had endured from the alien powers. They had laughed at human weakness and ignored human rights. Soon, they would learn that weakness had been an illusion. The galaxy was about to discover what Earth had been building in secret. And when that happened, everything would change. The news hit the Galactic Council like a bomb. 3 hive ships had limped back to their territory with impossible stories about a massive human warship that destroyed an entire fleet in minutes. The survivors spoke of weapons that bent space and shields that absorbed unlimited energy. War Commander Thexrel slammed his armored fist on the council table. Lies. Human propaganda designed to make us afraid. I have fought humans. They are weak creatures with primitive technology. But other species were not so sure. Reports from the new Denver battle had already made some aliens nervous about human capabilities. Now the Hive defeat suggested that Earth was hiding something dangerous. Kyle Harrison stood before the full Galactic Council for the second time in 6 months. But this time was different. Instead of sitting in the back corner, he was given a place at the main table. Instead of dismissive laughter, the aliens watched him with careful attention. Representatives of the galaxy, Kyle began, his voice steady and strong. I come before you today with new demands from Earth. First, all raids and attacks on human territory must stop immediately. Second, Earth claims full sovereignty over our current systems and all trade routes between them. Third, any further aggression against human colonies will be considered an act of war. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Dozens of alien species shouted protests and threats. How dare these upstart humans make demands of their betters? Council Chairman Mordick raised his hand for silence. Ambassador Harrison, your species has existed in space for less than a century. You control perhaps 20 star systems. What gives you the right to make demands of powers that have ruled the galaxy for thousands of years? Kyle smiled coldly. Our right comes from our ability to defend our interests, as the Hive Collective recently discovered. Speaker Zoct H buzzed angrily. Your lies will not protect you, human. The Hive will have justice for our lost ships. Then send another fleet, Kyle said calmly. But send a bigger one this time. 50 ships were not nearly enough. The chamber fell silent. Kyle's confidence was either madness or backed by real power. Given the strange reports coming from human space, many aliens were beginning to suspect it was the latter. War Commander Nexro stood to his full imposing height. Enough of this foolishness. The Vorthok Empire will not be threatened by primitive humans. I will personally lead a fleet to crush these upstarts and show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge their betters. Kyle met the alien's glowing eyes without flinching. Then Earth will be waiting for you, Commander. 3 weeks later, the largest military fleet in recorded galactic history assembled at the edge of human space. 200 Vorthok heavy cruisers, formed the core of the armada, supported by 50 hive carriers that had survived the recent battle. The Stellar Dominion contributed 30 energy-draining battleships. Even smaller species sent ships, eager to share in the destruction of upstart humanity. War Commander Thexrel stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Galaxy Crusher. The massive dreadnought was the pride of the Vorthok fleet, armed with weapons that could crack continents. Around him, over 300 ships prepared for the jump to Earth's solar system. All vessels report ready for jump, his communications officer announced. Execute jump to human home system, Thexrel ordered. Today, we end the human threat forever. The massive fleet disappeared in flashes of light, traveling faster than light toward Earth. They expected to find a small human defense force and one mysteriously powerful ship. Instead, they would discover that humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. Admiral Jack Murphy stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Around him, dozens of officers coordinated the defense of humanity's home system. Tactical displays showed the positions of 12 Titan-class warships positioned throughout the solar system. Admiral, massive fleet jumping in at the system edge, reported Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Kim. Over 300 ships. Configuration matches our intelligence on the Vorthok Alliance. All ships. This is Admiral Murphy. Jack broadcast on the command frequency. You are authorized to engage with full weapons. Show them what Earth can do. The alien fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel, expecting to see a few small human ships and one large anomaly. Instead, they found themselves facing 12 vessels that dwarfed their largest dreadnoughts. Each Titan-class ship was a mobile fortress, bristling with weapons that defied conventional physics. Impossible, Thexrel whispered, as his sensors registered the human fleet. Where did they get ships that size? His tactical officer gave him worse news. Commander, energy readings from the human vessels are beyond our measurement capabilities. Each ship is generating more power than our entire fleet. Captain Sarah Mitchell commanded the flagship UES Thunder, the largest of the Titan-class vessels. Her ship alone carried enough firepower to level a planet. Around her, 11 sister ships took up battle formation. This is Captain Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force, she broadcast to the alien fleet. You are trespassing in human space. Turn around and leave immediately, or we will fire. Thexrel's response was predictable. Human scum, you are outnumbered, 20-1. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Sarah looked at her tactical display. The alien fleet was impressive by galactic standards, but they had no idea what they were facing. Human technology had advanced far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. All ships, open fire, she ordered. Space erupted in violence beyond anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The 12 human ships unleashed weapons that rewrote the laws of physics. Gravitational disruptors created black holes that swallowed enemy vessels whole. Quantum torpedoes turned matter into pure energy. Reality cannons fired beams that simply deleted whatever they touched from existence. The alien fleet's return fire was massive, but useless. Their energy weapons struck human shields and were absorbed without effect. Their physical projectiles were stopped by defensive fields that made them heavier than planets. Nothing in their arsenal could even scratch the human ships. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Thexrel screamed into his communicator. But there was nowhere to run. The human weapons moved faster than light and struck with perfect accuracy. Vorthok, heavy cruisers, the terror of the galaxy for centuries, died like insects. Hive carriers that had conquered dozens of worlds were torn apart by gravity waves. Stellar Dominion battleships, beings of pure energy, were drained and destroyed by weapons that fed on their life force. Commander Greg Taylor led the advanced scout wing in the UES, Lightning. His smaller ship darted between the massive alien vessels, picking off survivors with precision strikes. His crew had trained for years for this moment, and they performed with deadly efficiency. Target the enemy command ship, he ordered his weapons officer. Let's end this quickly. The Galaxy Crusher was the most powerful ship the Vorthok had ever built, but it died as easily as the rest. Human weapons cut through its armor like paper. The massive dreadnought broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up space like a new star. Dr. Nina Walsh monitored the battle from Earth's command center, coordinating targeting data and tactical analysis. Her computers tracked every enemy ship, every weapon fired, every tactical maneuver. The human fleet fought with perfect coordination, each ship knowing exactly where the others were and what they were doing. Enemy fleet is down to 30% strength, she reported to Admiral Murphy. Remaining ships are attempting to retreat. Let some of them go, Jack ordered. We want survivors to carry the news. The battle lasted 6 hours, but the outcome was decided in the first 10 minutes. The greatest military force in galactic history was reduced to burning wreckage and fleeing survivors. Of over 300 ships that had attacked Earth, fewer than 50 escaped to tell the tale. Captain Sarah Mitchell surveyed the debris field that stretched across millions of kilometers. Pieces of alien ships drifted in the void, testament to human military might. Her own ship had not taken a single point of damage. Status report, she requested. All systems green, Captain, her engineering officer reported. Weapons at 90% capacity. We are ready for another engagement. Sarah nodded. The human fleet had barely expended any effort in destroying the enemy armada. If another alien power wanted to test Earth's defenses, they would meet the same fate. On his dying flagship, War Commander Vexrel sent a final message to the Vorthok Empire before his ship exploded. The humans, they have become something beyond our understanding. Do not fight them. Nothing can stand against their power. The message reached Vorthok space, along with similar reports from other surviving ships. Within hours, every major power in the galaxy knew that Earth had revealed weapons beyond their comprehension. The small, weak human species had become the most dangerous force in known space. Ambassador Kyle Harrison received news of the victory while sitting in his quarters on the diplomatic station. He felt no joy in the massive loss of life, but he understood its necessity. The galaxy's bullies had forced this confrontation through years of aggression and contempt. Now they would learn to respect human strength. The age of treating Earth as a helpless victim was over. A new galactic order was about to begin, with humanity at its center. The species that had once laughed at human weakness now faced a terrifying reality. Earth was no longer prey. It had become the most powerful predator in the galaxy, and everyone else was scrambling to avoid becoming its next target. The news of the massive alien defeat spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. In every spaceport, on every trading station, beings whispered about the impossible battle where humans had destroyed 300 ships with only 12 of their own. The stories grew with each telling, but the basic facts remained terrifying. Earth had revealed weapons that defied understanding. Human ships could absorb unlimited damage and strike back with forces that twisted reality itself. The small, weak species that everyone had ignored was now the most dangerous power in known space. Panic gripped the galactic community. Species that had spent centuries building their military might suddenly found themselves helpless against human technology. Trade routes shut down as merchant ships refused to travel near human space. Planetary governments recalled their fleets to defend their homeworlds. The Galactic Council called an emergency session within days of the battle. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, the Council met not to discuss expansion and conquest, but survival. Ambassador Kyle Harrison walked into the Council chamber to find a very different scene than before. Instead of dismissive aliens lounging in their seats, he saw nervous beings who watched his every move. The small chair at the back of the room had been replaced with a place of honor at the main table. Council Chairman Mordick stood as Kyle entered. The gray-skinned leader who had once treated humans with contempt now spoke with careful respect. Ambassador Harrison, the Galactic Council welcomes Earth's representative. We hope today we can begin discussions that will benefit all species. Kyle took his seat at the table and looked around the room. Fear was written on every alien face. These beings, who had ruled the galaxy through strength, now understood that they were weak compared to human power. Chairman Mordek, members of the council, Kyle began. Earth comes here today, not as conquerors, but as protectors. We have no desire to rule the galaxy or destroy other species. We simply want peace and security for all. Speaker Oaks, representing what remained of the Hive Collective, buzzed nervously. What does Earth require for this peace, Ambassador? Kyle had prepared for this moment for months. First, all aggressive actions against smaller species must end immediately. Second, established trade routes will be patrolled by human ships to ensure safety for all merchants. Third, any species that attacks civilians or enslaves other beings will face human justice. The chamber was silent as the aliens considered these demands. They were not unreasonable, but they represented a complete change in how the galaxy operated. For centuries, might had made right. Strong species took what they wanted from weak ones. Now humanity was offering protection to the helpless, backed by overwhelming force. And what if some species refused these terms? Asked Ambassador Vexamore of the Stellar Dominion. Kyle's expression remained calm, but his words carried the weight of human military might. Then they will discover why the Vorthok Empire no longer exists as a major power. Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed itself around Earth's new reality. Species that had built their power on aggression suddenly found themselves isolated and vulnerable. The few remaining Vorthok worlds surrendered to human forces rather than face destruction. Other warlike species followed suit. Admiral Claire Roberts oversaw the expansion of Earth's fleet from her headquarters on Luna. Human shipyards worked day and night to build more Titan-class vessels. Within months, 30 of the massive ships patrolled space lanes throughout the galaxy. Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 12 more systems, reported Captain Tony Davis from the Communications Center. They want to join the Human Protection Alliance. Claire studied the tactical map on her wall. Green markers showed systems under human protection, while red indicated hostile territories. The red areas were shrinking every day as former enemies chose cooperation over destruction. Accept their requests, she ordered, but make sure they understand the terms. We protect those who protect others. Any species that enslaves or attacks civilians will be removed from the alliance. The Human Protection Alliance became the fastest-growing political organization in galactic history. Within 6 months, over 200 species had joined, seeking safety under Earth's military umbrella. For the first time in centuries, small and peaceful civilizations could develop without fear of conquest. Dr. Lisa Carter led the scientific exchange programs that helped former enemies understand human values. Her teams worked on dozens of worlds, sharing medical knowledge and peaceful technologies while learning about alien cultures. The Zelrani have made remarkable progress, she reported during a council meeting on Earth. 6 months ago, they were enslaving their neighbors. Now, they have established their first democratic government and are requesting help with education programs. Captain Ryan Blake, promoted to Admiral after his heroic defense of New Denver, commanded the Deep Space Patrol Fleet. His ships carried Earth's message to distant stars, enforcing peace and protecting the innocent. Admiral Blake to Earth Command, he reported from the bridge of his flagship. The Corvan raiders have been neutralized. 3 ships destroyed, 2 captured. The freed slaves are being returned to their home worlds. Admiral Jack Murphy smiled as he received the report. The same Corvan raiders had terrorized this region for decades, taking captives and stealing resources. Now they were either dead or in human custody, never to threaten innocent beings again. But not all species accepted the new galactic order willingly. In the Outer Rim territories, a coalition of aggressive species, calling themselves the Free Galaxy movement began, organizing resistance to human expansion. "We will not bow to human tyranny," declared General Korthax of the Saurian Imperium during a secret meeting on the fortress world of Grimtar. "These upstarts have powerful weapons, but they are still few in number. United, we can defeat them." 20 species joined the coalition, pooling their remaining military forces into a fleet of over 500 ships. They planned to strike at human patrol groups, hoping to prove that Earth was not invincible. Admiral Murphy received intelligence about the coalition through human spy networks. The aliens thought they were being clever, but Earth's information-gathering capabilities were as advanced as its weapons technology. "Let them come," he told his staff during a strategy meeting. "It is time to finish this once and for all." The coalition fleet struck at a human patrol in the Centauri sector, expecting to find 2 or 3 Titan-class ships. Instead, they discovered that Admiral Blake had been waiting for them with 15 vessels, including the newest generation of human warships. The battle was even more one-sided than previous engagements. The coalition ships were destroyed so quickly that some never had time to fire a shot. Within 2 hours, the Free Galaxy movement ceased to exist as a military force. Captain Sarah Mitchell, now commanding the massive U.S. Dominion, surveyed the wreckage of enemy ships scattered across space. Her vessel alone had destroyed over 50 alien craft without taking any damage. "This is Sarah Mitchell to all surviving coalition ships," she broadcast. "Your leadership is dead. Your fleets are destroyed. Return to your home worlds and tell them that resistance to human protection is futile. We offer peace to those who want it, but we will not tolerate aggression against innocent beings." The few surviving ships fled in terror, carrying news of yet another crushing defeat back to their territories. Within weeks, the remaining coalition members were requesting to join the Human Protection Alliance. 1 year after the Great Battle at Earth, Kyle Harrison stood before the Galactic Council again, but this time, he was not just Earth's ambassador. He had been elected as the new council chairman, chosen by representatives of over 400 species. "Fellow beings," he addressed the assembly, "we gather today to celebrate the first anniversary of galactic peace. For 12 months, no species has been enslaved. No civilian ships have been raided. No worlds have been conquered by force." The chamber erupted in applause and alien sounds of approval. Species that had lived in fear for centuries now prospered under human protection. Trade flourished along safe routes patrolled by Earth's Navy. Scientific knowledge was shared freely between worlds. But Kyle's greatest pride was not in human military dominance. It was in what that dominance had made possible. Across the galaxy, former enemies worked together on peaceful projects. Medical advances saved millions of lives. Educational programs lifted entire civilizations out of poverty and ignorance. "The age of conquest is over," Kyle continued. "We have entered an age of cooperation, protected by those willing to fight for justice." Admiral Claire Roberts watched the ceremony from Earth, surrounded by the officers who had built humanity's galactic empire. Through the windows of her command center, she could see construction ships building the next generation of human vessels. Earth's fleet now numbered over 100 Titan-class ships, with more being completed every month. "Admiral, we are receiving a message from the Outer Rim survey team," reported Commander Lisa Wu. "They have made contact with a new species in the Andromeda Relay System. The beings are requesting protection from something they call the Devourers." Claire studied the report with interest. Earth had brought peace to their local region of the galaxy, but space was vast and full of unknown threats. Somewhere out there, new challenges waited. "Deploy the Fifth Fleet to investigate," she ordered, "and send Admiral Blake's Deep Space patrol to provide backup. If there are new threats out there, we need to know about them. As human ships prepared for their next mission, Claire reflected on how much had changed. Just 2 years ago, Earth had been a helpless target for alien raiders. Now humanity stood as the galaxy's protector, guardian of peace and justice among the stars. The transformation had come at a cost. Thousands of human lives had been lost in the battles that established Earth's dominance. But those sacrifices had purchased something precious, a galaxy where the strong protected the weak instead of preying upon them. Looking out at the stars, Claire knew that humanity's work was far from finished. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be new threats to face. But Earth had proven that even the mightiest aggressors could be defeated by those willing to fight for what was right. No one had feared Earth when humans first ventured into space. Now, the planet-crushing warships that emerged from human shipyards were both the galaxy's greatest threat and its strongest protector. The universe had learned to respect human strength, but more importantly, it had learned to trust human justice. The small blue world that had once been ignored now stood at the center of a new galactic civilization, one built on protection rather than conquest. And in the deepest reaches of space, wherever innocent beings cried out for help, human ships would answer the call. Earth had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same.